From time to time on this YouTube channel of mine, I'll try and do little portraits of players that I've come to know, not as well as some think I do, but players that I've come to know, almost like I was doing a visual essay, a small essay, not a large one, but just a visual essay. And I thought I'd start with one of the most fascinating characters of our times. You look at Virat Kohli and you say tough, aggressive, and yet these are not qualities that are unique to him. Anybody who plays cricket at this level has to be tough. Anybody who has succeeded at any level has to be tough, because at some point the tide will have been against you. At some point you will have had to overcome. Virat Kohli's aggression is in your face. And that's a quality that for someone of my generation was a bit unusual to see, because when I started watching cricket, when I started following cricket, all my early influencers, you almost had to be a good boy. And the aggression had to lie within. And I mean, if you look at two other iconic figures of our times, Tendulkar was very aggressive. Rahul Dravid was very aggressive. So was MS Dhoni. But that aggression was inside. It was almost like it was channelizing their intent into performance. And especially with Tendulkar, and I think to a large extent with Dhoni as well, the environment didn't seem to matter. It was literally closeted inside them versus everybody else. The one person who comes closest, actually, among those that I watched closely was actually Anil Kumble. And it's interesting that Kohli and Anil Kumble didn't quite get along. But Kumble's aggression, when it emerged from within himself, was sometimes directed at his teammates. If there was someone who missed something in the field when he was bowling, or a catch went down, but it was never as aggressive as in your face as Virat Kohli's. But Anil Kumble was very, very aggressive. The difference between Kumble and Kohli to some extent was that Kumble was constantly having to prove people wrong about what he can do. I mean, I know you're wondering what on earth I'm on about, because that's what Kohli is too. But I think he was using that to say, look, I'm good enough. He was trying to overcome the limitations almost that nature had placed upon him. With Virat Kohli, that's not the case. He's overflowing with talent. He's just a natural athlete. But I think in Virat Kohli's case, as in some extent with Kumble's case, he needs to prove a point. He needs to tell people, look, I proved you wrong. You think I couldn't do it? There I am. There's a rage within Virat Kohli that bubbles out sometimes more than it does with Kumble. To that extent, it's almost like he's a McEnroe. There are very, very few people who can channelize that intense fire, that intense rage, and produce a positive outcome. Sometimes that rage just kills you inside. Very few people can have that anger and still succeed. Very often anger is actually an opponent. But with McEnroe, and we're seeing with Kohli, that anger is just channelized. The rage within is fantastic. And so with Kohli, he needs a situation. He needs an opponent. Often you might, as I've seen, as a lot of you have seen, it could even be a media person. But he's got to have that somebody to say, you think I couldn't? Let me show you. And so from that point of view, I've picked 3 events in Virat Kohli's life that to me symbolize everything that Kohli is. The first of those came in the second innings in Adelaide. He's captain of the side. Very early in his test match career, he's just 3-4 years old in test match cricket. Australia have said 360, 370 in the 4th innings at Adelaide. Nobody gets those in those situations. The suggestion was, can we play out a draw? But Virat Kohli said in the change room, whatever they get, we will get. And that innings was a statement in aggression, that pent-up aggression coming out. You bowl short, I'll take you on. You put a fielder there, I'll take you on. You think we can't win this game? I'll show you we can win this game. And that opponent, the situation became the opponent that just took Virat Kohli's game to another level. It could be a specific opponent. I've mentioned this before, but to me that was just one of the big moments in Indian cricket. Virat Kohli telling England and telling his team what they will do to England in that great test match at Lord's. Let's give them 60 overs of fair, in your face, hard, aggressive. See my expressions as I'm saying this, and you'll understand what it was to be around when that was happening. It also explains his most recent comment, all those people in the box. the outside noise. Let me tell you one thing about Virat Kohli. There is no outside noise with Virat Kohli. He knows everything that is said about him, and he channelizes what is said about him into trying to deliver performance. As a media person, some of you very new to social media might think there's a personal grouse. None at all, because it's something that we've seen right through his career. If someone said something, I'll prove you wrong. There's a lot of reporters who'll agree, and I have no issue with that. Interestingly, as one of the producers said, every time Kohli comes and says, outside noise, I'll prove you wrong, he actually proves us right, because that's what the numbers were saying. But I thought what he did in this year's IPL was the third issue I'm going to come to. Dinesh Karthik said recently on Crickbuzz that what he did with RCB in those last 7 or 8 games, he said, even though I knew Virat Kohli so well, it just took him higher and higher. In my eyes, he grew, because people said strike rate, people said spin, people said power play batting, and he said, I'll prove you wrong. He got that opponent and he said, I'll prove you wrong. And so when he walks out to bat these days, teams are almost denying him that contest. There's silence around, much as it used to be when Steve Waugh came out to bat, player from an earlier generation with similar pent-up aggression. So suddenly it's all quiet there. Where does Virat Kohli pick up that contest? And that's where all these other contests that I talked to you about for a while, because Virat Kohli is a warrior. He's not a diplomat. He's not a statesman. He has those qualities, but largely he's a warrior. And I guess we all need something within us to keep us going. And there are two Virat Kohlis. I mean, I can't say I know him very well. Many others know him far, far better than I do. But I saw two facets to him living almost side by side within the same person. I did a post-match presentation at one of the RCB games where he said, I think I still have it. Now, a lot of people on social media apparently rage, saying, there he was going after you. No, he wasn't. He wasn't going after me. He wasn't going after anybody. He was just giving vent to that thought within. You thought I didn't have it? See, I showed you that I have it. And that's exactly what I've been saying over the last few minutes. And then, for the next 15 minutes or so after the presentation, he was as polite as he could be. He talking to the selectors about what he wanted to do about the T20 World Cup. He went into some detail. I'm still old school. I won't reveal all that. But he then talked about what was in his mind at 18.5. I was very keen to ask him that because I was the voice on it. And I explained to him, for example, that I didn't think it would go for 6 when he hit that shot. Hence, goes down the ground, then goes out of the ground. But that's a separate topic in itself. And he explained his point of view, and he was absolutely fine because now he didn't need that rage within him. I'll tell you another story about Virat Kohli. There was a colleague of mine whose daughter was very unwell, had a form of cancer, and one of the journalists who's close to Virat Kohli said, "Can you just record a little message for her?" Which Virat gladly did. And then she said to me once, she's a friend's daughter, so I'd be in touch with her all the time, and she said, through my worst periods, that message was so important for me. And as a celebration for her recovery, and that's fantastic, she recovered. As a celebration from that recovery, they were in Australia for the T20 World Cup. Now, I don't have a number for Virat Kohli, but I thought it might be wonderful if that message that meant so much for her, they could go and say thank you in person. So through a media colleague who knew Virat's wife, the message went across, then again back through Virat to Anushka. And the message was, ask her to meet me at this time, at this place in the hotel. And he spent half an hour with her. She will not hear a word spoken against him. And he was very warm, very compassionate, asking about the recovery, saying, well done. There is that side to him as well. I remember talking to him afterwards saying, you have this enormous power, Virat, and I wish that many others who had that power would wield it in much the same way. And so this T20 World Cup. And I almost wish sometimes that I could just whisper in his ears, Virat, I don't think you can, and then just sit back and watch all the fun. It's been phenomenal watching Virat Kohli over the years. It's been phenomenal trying to understand a person who I don't know that well, but I don't know if I'll ever understand him. But it's been fascinating to see him believe he can take on the world and seeing that rage come through, and it's been a great journey. with Virat Kohli because of the enormous discipline that accompanies everything that he does. And the message for a lot of young people who want to be the next Virat Kohli is don't look at the byproducts of what he has achieved, the riches, the wealth. Don't look at all that. Look at what went into becoming that. And there is a story of enormous discipline that you will see in Tendulkar as well. Enormous discipline. And you'll see that in the weight loss from the West Delhi boy to the sculpted person he is now. You'll see that in the discipline with which he approaches T20 cricket. So there you are. That was a little mini essay into a person I'd like to know better, but a person I've constantly been fascinated by. We're going to be doing a lot of interesting things on this channel, so do like, do subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you.